When I'm at conferences, the great thing about going to conferences is you always come out with new quotes. People always have that clever quote that you write down. And one which has been used quite a lot in many of the conferences I got, and they always say it's an African proverb. Because if you say it's an African proverb, it's wise. You know, it's always deep. It's not a Welsh saying, no, it's an African proverb. But they always say, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And in many ways, it is wise, and it is an interesting thing. But my question has always been, but what happens if you want to go far and fast? Because quite frankly, that to me sort of sums up the dilemma of collaboration. And the dilemma of collaboration that we have in our working life is we know intuitively that it is right to work with other people. We know intuitively that we can go further when we go together. We know intuitively that people have knowledge which is of value to the achievements that we wish to achieve. But that's intuitively. When it comes down to it, everything that has made us successful, everything that has brought us to this point in time has been an individual success. Or that's how we've been rewarded. Most of the systems you operate under, be it in the public sector or in the private sector, are individual rewards-based systems, from school onwards. I mean, I always know, you know, I often say my kids, we try to bring them up the best we can. You know, it's quite funny, before you have children, you have all these plans, and then they come, and then it all falls apart, and you just kind of cope. But, you know, when we have children, we always say to our kids, you know, share your toys and play and be kind to the other children and all of that. So then they go to school, and then when they get to school, they sit down, and then they get their first test. And if they're kind of like every other kid, the first thing they do when they get their first test is they turn to the person next to them, and they say, hey, what did you get? Because I'm going to... And then the teacher says, oi, it's the test. You're not supposed to talk to each other. And from that point onwards, everything becomes an individual measure. So the children are kind of growing up with this idea that actually I have to be the best I can be, but actually I have to be better than other people. And if it's only when I'm better than other people that actually I can get anywhere. And that happens to us throughout our careers, because most organizations are still in the shape of a pyramid somehow, and there's less people at the top. And actually, you get promoted by being faster, better, more clever, or whatever it is, than other people. So you have this dual idea in your mind of, we need to be together, but actually it's going to slow me down. We're going to achieve less. And constantly you have those two forces of, I know it's right to do, but it goes against everything that I feel. Today, I want to talk about what I call disciplined collaboration. Because the idea is, if you have discipline in the way you organize your collaboration, you have a chance to do it. It's not good enough to say, let's keep in touch, I'm sure there's great things we can do. You have to have discipline in the way you collaborate. And the idea of discipline and collaboration together doesn't always sit comfortably. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by collaboration. So for me, collaboration can be easily replaced by impact and influence. How do we impact and influence other people around us? And if you think of collaboration as impact and influence, you realize that actually, as we grow, things change. And we move from an understanding of ourselves to others. It's other people who start impacting ourselves, and then we eventually realize we can impact other people. So really, there's three levels that need to be at play before we make collaboration happen. And I'm going to talk you through the three, because I think once we've got those put together, we're in a good place. So level one, I call personal. You have to feel strong in yourself in order to be able to give something of yourself. If you haven't got that, if you haven't got certainty of what your value is, you cannot impact the world around you. Then you start to bring people together and work with them, which is what I call social, when we work together. And then eventually you may, at some stage, get to a place where it is no longer about you. We call this interdependent power, where actually, as an individual, it is no longer about you, but it's about you being a conduit for other people. It's about you enabling other people to perform at their best without you being involved. Psychologists tend to go, we talk about the Mandelas, the Gandhis, You know, the people who kind of somehow enable communities to realize their own power and work without them. It becomes kind of a big thing. My view is always if you have to spend 26 years in jail or being shot at by the British in order to get there, it's probably not something we'll all want to be at, but you know, it might come in handy to start thinking about actually how do I get a community to work. And actually, if I think about you in terms of what you do for a living, that's pretty important. It's pretty important to think through how do I orchestrate a community to work with themselves, for themselves, without actually me being the center of attention.